Hey VV Nation, welcome to our channel. My name is Glenn Tompkins, Senior Instructor here at VectorVest. Always love bringing these videos to your attention. Folks, this is a big story that's out there on social media everywhere, talking about the declining dollar. And I'm going to give some insight on what's going on, and then at the end, tell you what I think, and then we're going to also look at VectorVest to determine what's really going on with the dollar and does this buzz have real merit at this time. I'm going to jump into some slides that I put together for you on the declining dollar. The US dollar declines when the dollar's value is lower compared to other currencies in the foreign exchange market. This manifests itself as a decline in the dollar index. Generally, this means a foreign currency such as the euro can buy an increasingly large amount of dollars. Secondly, a weaker dollar buys less in foreign goods. This increases the price of imports, contributing to inflation. Story that's going on right now. As the dollar weakens, investors in the benchmark 10-year treasury and other bonds sell their dollar-denominated holdings. All right, so that's one part of it. Let's go to another part. The US dollar has declined 2.57% in March, notching 4 losing weeks out of the last 5. So again, this is part of what's going on as a buzz in social media. This story came from an article. A senior market analyst from FX Pro said the dollar is preparing to stare into the abyss. So there's a lot of doom and gloom when it comes down to the dollar. And I think that a lot of people are going to the extreme of the dollar collapsing over time. Will that happen? Well, that leaves, we got time to see if that does happen or not. But I think that is definitely an extreme. I think that the dollar declining is part of just what happens over time. But, you notch that we do have inflation. Inflation is high. Let's see if we can get it under control. The Fed is doing what it can do to do that. In the last 6 months, we have seen quite the typical and understandable reversal of the dollar. Now, there's 3 things that add to the declining dollar, and I've got here hyperinflation. When hyperinflation occurs, every dollar becomes less valuable. $10 that gives you an example. Political instability. One thing I don't like to talk about on this channel is politics, but while not something we expect to see in the U.S., okay, I want to put that out there. Governments can be overthrown. Where there's a military coup, a war, or another event resulting in political upheaval, a country's currency can often be a casualty. We've seen that happen in a lot of other third world countries, but I don't expect that to ever happen in the U.S. But again, that's my opinion. And high debt, something that we are currently going through right now. Many countries have high levels of debt these days. Ooh, talk about the debt ceiling, talk about how much debt we're in overall. But this is all relative to the strength of the underlying economy. When a country has very high debt and a shrinking economy, this can cause a flight of assets and a collapse of the currency. Again, I think that goes to the extreme, talking about the collapse of an economy. So now let's go and take a look at a couple of stories that I have for you as well. And another part of this is the BRICS countries. So I want to talk about who they are, and they are actively attacking the dollar to become the new reserve currency. Overall, we are the reserve currency globally. Everybody, everywhere you go, you can spend US dollars in that country. But things are in play to overcome us as the reserve currency, and the BRICS is part of it. Who are they? Why are they a threat to the U.S.? BRICS is the acronym that stands for 5 emerging world economies. Let me step back a little bit. Emerging world economies. Now, we had the G7, where 7 of the biggest economies came together to address economic issues and currency and all that kind of thing. And a lot of people felt that the G7 kept out the emerging world economies. So then we moved from the G7 to the G20 to bringing more countries to have a say or a word in the global currency and things of that nature. But these countries stand out: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, which make up the BRICS economic system, and that system is growing. It might seem easy to brush off all the all the countries as the world is a third world, and we look at that a lot, right? Or emerging, but ignoring this coalition of countries could be disastrous for the Western global market. Now, let's talk about more countries looking to get into the BRICS system. Argentina wants in, among others, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Argentina, Egypt, Thailand, Indonesia, Nigeria, Senegal, and Saudi Arabia want to be in on this BRICS. Now, there's a reason why, all right? There's a reason why we're going to get to that in a second, of why these countries are growing together to go against the reserve currency of the United States. Now, dumping the dollar. Will the new BRICS currency replace the U.S. currency for trade? And this story talks about de-dollarization has received a boost in recent times, especially after the Russia-Ukraine war began last February. And last week, this movement received further impetus while Alexander Babakov, the deputy chairman of the State Duma, was quoted as saying that the BRICS nations are in the process of creating a new medium for payments established on the strategy that does not defend the dollar or the euro. Again, this is why I say this is out there. This is what you need to keep in mind in regards to the BRICS countries and actually more people or countries wanting to join to be able to go against our ability to be the reserve currency. So now I talked about the reserve currency. I did some research on it. It is a foreign currency that is held in significant quantities by central banks or other monetary authorities as part of the foreign exchange reserves. All right, push that up. There we go. The United Kingdom's pound sterling was the primary reserve currency as much of the world in the 19th century and the first half of the 20th century. However, by the middle of the 20th century, the United States dollar had become the world's dominant reserve currency. Let's scroll down a little bit. We talk about the history. This Wikipedia about the currency, reserve currency, was very, very interesting. But I want to go right here. The global currency reserves up into 2022. The U.S. dollar is the dominant currency globally. All right. And from this fact alone, and as it's falling, it is declining. From 2009, it was at 62%. Right now, it's at 58% over this time period. So it is declining. But as I look at this, we've got such a large amount of dollars as foreign currency globally. I think it's going to take a whole lot more than just the BRICS. Are they gaining momentum? Sure they are. Will they overtake the us as the reserve currency? It leaves much to your imagination. Or again, if you go to the extreme says, yeah, it's going to happen at some point in time. I found an article, and I couldn't find it again, that said that reserve currencies, the longest lasting reserve currency lasted for 110 years before it collapsed. We're sitting at 103 years as us being the reserve currency. Does that mean in 7 years now it's going to collapse? I'm not saying that, but that's just a tidbit of information. Something else. The United States dollar, major reserve currencies, the United States dollar, and this is why the BRICS countries are going towards this polarization to pull us out of the reserve currency. The dollar's role as the undisputed reserve currency in the world allows the United States to impose unilateral sanctions against actions performed between other countries. And that's what keeps us to try to keep people in line when they do things that are not right. We put sanctions on them. And I think that the BRICS coalition is the coalition to go against or go around those sanctions by being able to trade outside of the sanctions. Keep in mind that when we put the sanctions on Russia said on oil, Russia said, we're going to, if you want to buy our oil, we got to buy it in rubles. And China said, okay, we're going to go buy them in rubles. And so they were outside. And if the BRICS countries can come together to form another currency outside of the dollar, then these sanctions will be rendered pretty much useless if they're trading outside of the US dollar. Again, they get the momentum, they garnering the momentum. Are they at a point where they're going to create a currency that's going to usurp us as the reserve currency? I don't know. So let's go to the VectorVest system and let's go look at the dollar. And then with that, I'm going to look at the flight to safety when it comes to the dollar. If the dollar is going down, gold tends to go up. Recently, I introduced an ETF that's out there that's an inexpensive way to play the gold, which is SGOL. And then I'm tracking the dollar utilizing the ticker symbol UUP. I want to graph these, all right? Notice that gold ETF is a buy recommendation where the UUP or tracking the dollar is a hold recommendation. Let's graph these, and I'm going to put these on a bigger graph, put this on a 5-year graph. And as I look, here's gold. Gold is trading right now close to 5-year highs, or this ticker symbol, of $19.85. It's currently at $19.19. Folks, that's a 5-year high. So it means that a lot of people are definitely migrating to gold at this time. And then if I look at the dollar, I want you to see something. The dollar's declining rapidly, found a level of support, coming back down. But we went through this before, prior to what we're going through now, where the dollar found a level of about $24 and some change on UUP. We're currently at $27.82. Does this mean that the dollar is declining and on board for a collapse? I am not going as far to the extreme to say that the dollar is going to collapse, that the reserve currency no longer will be the dollar after some time. But this is something that is out there. This is something that you've got to keep your eyes on. And to play this, if the dollar does decide it's going to keep declining, you might want to think about playing gold at this time. So that's my insight to address what's going on for all of the news that is out there in regards to the declining dollar. And again, a lot of people are on the other side of the extreme saying that the dollar is going to collapse. The BRICS countries are going to come up with a new currency that will overcome the US dollar as the reserve currency. We'll see, but if nothing else, hopefully, if this gave you some better insight into the situation, let me know in the comments. If you totally disagree with this, let me know in the comments. And again, for newer people, hopefully this opened your eyes, set off some lights to help you to better understand what's going on. If you're not a subscriber to the channel, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon, and we'd love to keep you here and give you this. We strive hard to do all of the work so that you can reap the rewards. Folks, this video is over, and until the next time, see ya.